Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we've got our handicap analysis for today. Quite a few this week. I think with the flat season now in full swing, there's going to be probably about this amount each week. I seem to feel that the horses on the flat get dropped a lot quicker than they do over hurdles and fences. The handicapper just seems to drop them. They don't have to run that badly. And the handicapper's like, yeah, drop them £1, drop them £2. And on the flat, I think that makes all the difference as well, because, you know, it's fractions sometimes on the flat, and that can be all the difference from running reasonable or poor even to running really well. So let's kick off. We'll start off with a horse called Alligator Alley, who has dropped £1 to 88, and I feel that he could be a horse that gets going in the second half of the season, and we can actually look at his form last season. When he came back on the turf, he disappointed at York, as you can see where my arrow is. He was 6th, then he was 8th at York, then he was 12th at Epsom, and then he was 3rd at Doncaster, 3rd at Goodwood, 2nd at York, and 1 on the Tapita at Newcastle. I just feel he needs a couple of runs to get going in the season, and just wonder whether he's actually had those already, in the fact that he ran in March and he's ran in May. And I think they will be targeting the race that they disappointed in last year. They were 12th in the Epsom Dash last year. However, one thing we have to note about Alligator Alley, when he ran in that race last year, it was a bit of a mess. Some of the stalls opened early, some of them were late, and I just feel that the race was a bit of a mess, basically. He didn't get a clear run either. He was travelled really nicely just behind the leaders. He jumped the path as well. And yeah, he was quite badly hampered, and I felt that afterwards Jason just didn't do anything. So his 12th place was kind of lenient in you know, he should have finished in the top 10 for sure. I would have probably had him maybe 5th or 6th. Maybe he'd even gone a lot closer than that with a clear run, and things all happening as normal in the race. You know, things didn't happen normal in the race because of the stalls opening at different times. So he probably should have finished a lot further forward. That came off a mark of 96. As I've just mentioned, he could run this year off just 88. So he'd be £8 lower. Now, £8 is a lot lower than last year for sure. And I thought it was interesting that he had the visor on last year. First time. They've kept it on since, so they do feel that it's making a difference. And if you ignore that run at Epsom where it was the first time on and it didn't quite go to plan, things didn't work for whatever reason, all the reasons I've just mentioned, they've kept it on. He's then run well since. 3rd at Doncaster, as I said, 3rd at Goodwood, 2nd at York, and then winning at Newcastle. Back off a lower mark, I think he would have a massive chance this year. You know, he's gone close before in a handicap at Epsom. He was 4th in the Tokyo Trophy off a mark of 92. So running off 88, running off 88. Yeah, now I think he's off a mark that he can really go very close. So keep an eye out for Alligator Alley in the Epsom Dash. And let's add these as we go along to our RTR Nagme. So we are going to add Alligator Alley to the Epsom Dash. Now off a nice mark. Nice mark. Ignore last year when no run and stalls issues. So that just reminds me to, if I do look at it and go, well, he was disappointing in this race last year, so I won't be picking him this year. Just to remind me that there was reasons for his disappointing run. So yeah, Alligator Alley off 88. I think he'll run a really big race in the Epsom Dash, which is the Aston Martin Dash this year, on Saturday, the 1st of June. So not that long. How many days is that? I'm just loading it up in the bottom right-hand corner. You might see it appear a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days' time. So yeah, I think that gives him plenty of time to get over his run last week at York as well. Moving on to the next horse, which is Dutch Decoy for Owners Group. Owners Group 52. I don't know how many they've got now. I'm not a massive fan of the owners group because it's like 4,000 members per horse. You're not an owner, you're just a financier, or I don't even know what you're called. You're just basically giving money to the syndicate managers. But anyway, the horse dropped £1 to 93 on the back of one disappointing run at York. The 2 runs before that at Newmarket were both very good efforts. You know, second behind Hafitalen and then second to Liberty Lane. Nothing wrong with those bits of form. So his form at Newmarket on both tracks is actually really good. 3 wins, 2 seconds, a 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. And he's back down, to 93, where I think he can certainly run a big race. Now, I do like him back at Newmarket for sure. I'd like to see him back there as soon as possible. But he does also have some decent form at Sandown, including last year when he was 2nd to Maison and then 3rd to Perotto in consecutive races. I kind of feel that might be where we see him again next. He could go to Epsom, but I hope they wait for a slightly better race at Sandown. And it's this Summerghand Handicap Stakes. Decent prize money. The horse is rated 0 to 100. He gets in. Yeah, I think that's where I would be saving him for that race rather than almost wasting him at Epsom, where I don't think the prize money is as much. I'm just going to have a look what he ran in last year. What was it worth? 38 grand for the winner. It might be a race that they end up running in. But regardless, I think he runs well wherever he goes. If he goes to Epsom, Sandown, and definitely at Newmarket, off 93, he can certainly run well off 93, so that's not an issue for me. So Dutch Decoy is definitely one to have in. Let's add him to our notebook. Dropped, whoops, £1. I'm typing this with a microphone in my way. That's why my typing isn't great. Dropped £1 for poor run at York. Epsom. Let's just full stop that first. Epsom, Sandown, Newmarket. Races to go for. So that is Dutch Decoy. Moving on to the third horse that caught my eye, and that is First Folio. Also another one for owners group. Dropped £1 to 89, and now I think he is nicely handicapped off 89. Running last season or the season before, he was up to a mark of 102 when he was running back here, including after winning at Yarmouth. He went up to a mark of 102 in October 2022. Now, he has dropped in the handicap, but he's not actually been running that badly. Some of his runs have been alright. He was third at Thirsk at the end of last season, third at Yarmouth. Even his fifth at Newcastle, the big, his first run back, there wasn't a lot wrong with that, really. 5th of 14. It's not that he was 5th of 5 or completely smashed and well beaten and finishing 12th, 13th, 14th sort of thing. He was 5th. I'm sure Julie Camacho will think that was a perfectly good reappearance. And where could they go with him? Well, they might try and get him in the Wokingham off a mark of 89, but I do wonder whether that would be I don't think he'll get in, personally. So where would I like to see him run? Well, if they want to try and get a win into him, you run him at Newmarket on the 22nd of June in this race here, the 71 to 90. So he's rated 89. He gets in. It's a 6 furlong handicap. It's at Newmarket. Well, his form at Newmarket is pretty good as well. Just having a look. Let's go back to his form. Newmarket, he's finished 5th. He's finished 4th. And now I'm looking at both Newmarket tracks here. He's finished 8th. And he didn't run these couple. Oh, and he's also got 4th. I'm sure he's got a better run than that. 5th behind Jumbie off 91. 4th to Great Ambassador of 98. 5th to Black Rod off 97. 8th of 9 off 97. But, they're not amazing efforts. But they're good enough considering he's now only rated 89. If he'd run off 89 when he was 4th to Great Ambassador, £9 lower, he would have gone really close, wouldn't he? Behind Great Ambassador, Rathbone, Jumbie, in front of Chairman on the board, an Ascot specialist. That was really good form. I think that's where we'll see him. next time. I think we'll see him at Newmarket in this 6, a Class 3 race. I think that's key, dropping him down in class. Last time out it was a Class 2. I'm just having a look. Has he run in a Class 3 recently? Class 3, 2 runs ago, when he was disappointing at Wolverhampton, but you ignore that. That was the wrong... I don't quite think he wants the all-weather. But if we look at his... the Wolverhampton course, sorry. If we look at his race when he was 3rd, 2 runs ago, behind Hydration in Kuwait City, he went off the 5-2 favourite. Not beaten far, into 3rd. Yeah, that's where I think... And that came off 93. He's dropped £4 since then. Got to go for this race at Newmarket with Folio. So I'm going to make a note of that. I want to see him at Newmarket on... What date was it? The 22nd of June. 22nd of June, over 6. Easier race, lower mark. And that would be where I think Owners Group could get a win into their horse rather than just going for participation awards. Moving on to the next horse that caught my eye with his new handicap mark, and that is Live in the Moment, who we liked at Doncaster, and he ran well for a long way before just getting tired late on. But he's dropped another £1 for that. He's down to 83. I think it's really interesting with this horse, because if we have a look at his York form, he was first over 5, he was first over 5, he was second over 5, and then you go, oh, but he got beat. Let's have a look at this race. I wonder if I've actually got it already open. I haven't. Let's have a look. Who was he beaten by on this day when he was behind, when he was second? He was beaten by Copper Knight. Copper Knight has won 7 times at York. He's a specialist at York. So he just got beat by a York specialist. Still ran a great race. So his form is 1-1-2, beaten by a York specialist. That race there in August 2021 was the last time he ran at York. He's not been back since. Why has he not been back since? That just does not make any sense to me. He's got to go back now. And to be honest, there's a race that I think he would take all the beating in. Not only does he have the York form, it would be an easier race. It's this race here. It's a 6 furlong Class 4. Horse is rated 66 to 85. Well, when he was running in these races, let's load up those 3 races at York. He ran off marks of 77 when he won the first one. So he ran off 77 here, beating Garsman. He ran off 85 when beating Illusionist. And then he was beaten off... What was he beaten off? 93. So he's won off 85, beaten off 93. Could run here off 83. This was a 2. This was a 2. This was a 4. So this is the type of race he'd be running in. A Class 4. He won that. And he beat Garsman that day by 1.5 lengths. And I liked Garsman that day. Came into it in good form. And Live in the Moment was too good for him. He's got to go back for that race at York on the 15th of June. If they want to get a win into him, that's where you've got to see Live in the Moment run next. So let's add that into our notebook. You can see it's actually already in there. Let's change these notes. York, 1-1-2, beaten by Specialist, beaten by Course Specialist, well handicapped on best, well handicapped. When is it? Let's make a note of that. Saturday the 15th of June. Saturday 15th June at York. So let's update that. Moving on to the next one, and that is a horse called Marshman. I really like Marshman, but he's definitely not kicked on. When he was second at York last season, 2 years ago, sorry, he looked a horse with huge potential, but it's definitely not worked since. He's not hit the heights that I imagine Nick Bradley was hoping for. With that in mind, and the fact that he's still a colt, why don't they think about dropping him in class now? Drop him in class and run him in the Wokingham. 6 furlong handicap. It's great prize money for winning the Wokingham. The last 3-year-old, not that Marshman is 3, he's 4. That's related to another horse later. He's dropped in the handicap down another pound to 105. Now, last year he turned up at Ascot and he went off. He was rated 111 and he ended up running in the Group 1, King's Stand Stakes. Finished 7th of 17, not beaten that far. On the back of that, it was a Group 1. He was only beaten 5 lengths. Surely he would run a massive race in a handicap. Since then, he's dropped from 111 to 110, 108, 108, 106, 105. He didn't do it last time in a Group 2. He got well beaten before that in a Group 3. His best run this season was 2nd in a listed, which might be all his level that he actually is. He might only be a listed horse. But with that in mind, drop him into a lucrative handicap. I think he'll go really well in the Wokingham. 6 furlong handicap on the 22nd of June. So let's add Marshman or change his notes. We've already got him. I've suggested dropping him to 5. They're keeping him to 6. I do think he can go well over 6, especially if they run him in the Wokingham. Dropping class 7th in Group 1 last year. That's where they've got to be running Marshman. We move on to a horse significantly lower in the handicap, and that is Mokaatil. He's down £1 to 59 after a disappointing run at Catterick. He'd never been to Catterick. No idea why they ran him at Catterick. He'd never been there. I guess you could say, yeah, we were trying somewhere new. But there's also races that they could be trying where he's proven he's run well before. There was a couple of races at Pontefract that he missed out on. There was a couple of races at Musselburgh that he'd missed out on. I want them to go to Musselburgh next time. There is a race on the 13th of June. This Class 6 5 furlong handicap for horses rated 46 to 60. So being rated 59, he'll actually be one of the better horses in the race anyway. And yeah, he's got some form at Musselburgh. If we have a look back through it, where is his form at Musselburgh? You can see it's a little while ago. He's won there. He's also finished... Was that his last run at the track was actually a win? His other runs were on the second page. I'm just having a look on my other screen for his race at Musselburgh. When he won off 86. He could run off 59. So the last time he came here was rated 86 and he won. Why haven't they been back? I mean, it's not like he's been running well recently. He's been disappointing. He's not got the ability that he used to have. But why haven't they gone back to a track that he's won at? So yeah, I really hope they go to Musselburgh next time with Mokaatil. It's on the 13th of June for a Class 6 handicap. I think he'll bounce back and run a big race there. So Thursday, 13th of June at Musselburgh. So I'll actually get a notification if he is in that race the day before that he's in it, which will remind me that I think he'll go really close. Moving on to one that I think this has got to be obvious, hasn't it? Mr. Wagyu disappointed at York. Well, I say disappointed. He didn't run badly. He finished 6th of 21, beaten 5 lengths. Handicapper was very kind, dropped him back to that 90 mark that he started the season on. Last year, he went to Epsom. He finished 3rd behind Badri and Apollo 1. That came off a mark of 96, £6 higher. The year before that, he'd been to Epsom in that same handicap, and he'd won it. And he won that off 94. So he won off 94, he was 3rd off 96. He returns this year off 90. I mean, he's got to have a massive chance, hasn't he, of bouncing back and winning that Tokyo handicap again. Tokyo handicap at Epsom. I mean, I'll be disappointed if he doesn't run in it, and really disappointed if he doesn't go very close. And off his recent handicap marks, I mean, even if we got the 9-2 that he was last year, I think you'll probably get bigger than that. You could probably get 8, 9-1, I would imagine, on the day, and that would be great. 9s and 11s this year. I know he's got form at Epsom, which might mean we don't quite get as big a price as we were hoping for. But yeah, if you can get, I think honestly, if you've got 9-2 about him, I'd be very happy with the price of 9-2 about him this year, considering he was 3rd last year off a £6 higher mark. We move on to a horse called Relief Rally. Now, Relief Rally dropped back in trip proved that she was a sprinter, finishing second behind Elite Status. Now, to be fair to Elite Status, maybe that horse is a Group 1 horse. Connections had run it in Group 1s for its last 2 runs. And then returned this season beating Relief Rally. It might not be that bad a run. But the handicap was very kind, dropped her £1 to 104. Now I'd like to see her also run in the Wokingham. If Marshman and Relief Rally both ran in the Wokingham, I think I'd probably be more keen on Relief Rally, to be honest. As a 3-year-old, you would suggest that maybe she doesn't have a chance. But actually, the last 3-year-old to run in the race was Rohan when he won it. I'd be really keen on Relief Rally in the Wokingham, and hope that William Haggas does drop her down in class to try and get her back to winning ways, and then they can go back into group races and listed races. I think she's better than Handicap Company for sure. But yeah, I'd really like to see Relief Rally run at Ascot. She ran at Ascot last year, and she was second over 5, beaten a nose, I believe, that day. Just having a look on my other screen, she was beaten a nose by Crimson Advocate in a Group 2, the Queen Mary Stakes. They beat Beautiful Diamond that day. There were some other decent ones behind as well, and I thought she was very unlucky not to win at Ascot. So yeah, Relief Rally in the Wokingham, surely should run a massive race. We move on to the next horse, which is Summerghand. Summerghand has dropped another £1. He's down to 93 after they stepped him up to 7, and he ran a similar type of race. He was held up at the back, looked in trouble. I actually thought, yeah, he's not staying the trip either, before running on quite nicely at the end again to get a never nearer 7th, only beaten 2 3/4 lengths. Handicap has dropped him another £1, down to 93. I mean, he's incredibly well handicapped for when he returns to like the Great St Wilfred. Off 93, he was second in it last year, off 97. And then actually won the Scott Constantine handicap of 102. That's the sort of races I think we'll see him in again at the end of the season. I imagine I've already got it in. Let's just add that Great St Wilfred. If he runs at York or Ripon, the Curragh, if they go over to the Curragh with him, Ayr, they could also look at the Ayr Gold Cup. Any of those types of races, I'd probably be backing him. Yeah, I'd probably ignore him in the Stewards Cup. I don't think his form is quite good, although he won the Stewards Cup back in 2020, didn't he? I'd probably have to back him in the Stewards Cup as well. He is well handicapped. It's all about when he finally gets it together this season, but I'm sure he'll find a race this season. That's Summerghand. We'll move on to the next horse, which is Aberama Gold. Now, Aberama Gold has dropped £2 to 94, which I think starts to make him well handicapped. Well, it does make him well handicapped. His last win actually came at Doncaster off 96, so the fact he's now rated 94, he is definitely well handicapped. He also won last year the Stewards Cup off 95, so he's nicely handicapped. I think the big thing with this horse, though, is the ground. If we actually look at heavy going, he won at Doncaster. Heavy going, he won at Goodwood. And heavy going, he won at Ayr. His last 3 runs on heavy going, he's actually won. So he definitely wants that heavy going as well. But he also has wins in the meantime at York on Good to Fur Hamilton, standard at Wolverhampton. So the ground isn't the be-all and end-all. But I think he really thrives when it's heavy. If he doesn't find a win before running on heavy, I think he's going to take all of the beating wherever he goes. But I certainly hope to see him in some of the other races in the meantime as well, such as the Stewards Cup at the Goodwood Festival, or whatever it's called now, the Qatar Racing Festival. You could also see him in the Sky Bet Dash at York. You know, those types of races. He is well handicapped now. And it wasn't that long ago that he was finishing just a length behind Dark 30 at Newmarket. It's not like he's completely out of form. So keep an eye out for Aberama Gold. If we get a deluge of rain at some point and it goes off heavy and he's about this sort of mark, he's definitely one that you want to be looking at as well. So let's add some notes for him. He's well handicapped. Now, heavy going would be very well handicapped. And let's create the Nagme for Aberama Gold. We move on to the next one, which is, there's not too many to go, 4, 5 to go now. We move on to the next one, which is Cruyff Turn. Now, Cruyff Turn, he ran okay last time out when he was 8th at York. 8th of 17, so he kind of finished in mid-division. And his form at York hasn't really been there recently. He's finished 8th, he's finished 8th, 17th, 17th, 10th, 7th, 9th. There is last 18th. And then it was a win back in May 2022. So I kind of feel that they should give up with York for a little bit. Get him back to a race that he can win. Maybe get him a couple of wins because he's so nicely handicapped now. He's only rated 86, whereas he's previously been as high as 100. So he's nicely handicapped. He could win 2 handicaps off his current mark, and then he would go up a few pounds and then hopefully win again. So I hope they run him next time at Redcar in this race for horses rated 71 to 90. It's over the mile trip, or just short of the mile, which will suit him. He's got plenty of form over 7 and a mile, including winning over a mile at nearly a mile at York. 7 furlong, 192 at York. This is 7 furlongs, 219. So it's a few yards further. It's like 30 yards further. But I think the interesting thing about this race at Redcar on the 21st of June, he's been to Redcar recently, or on the 24th of June, he won over 7 furlongs. If we go back, he won over 7 furlongs at Redcar, and he won over 7 furlongs at Redcar. So this is slightly further, but it's at Redcar where he's 3 from 3. I mean, he's got to go back for that race, hasn't he, on the 21st of June? And off his new mark, I think he would go really close. So let's make a note of that. Redcar, 21st of June, 3 from 3 at the course. If he turns up there, I think he would run a massive race. The next horse I want to talk about very briefly is Tacarib Bay. Dropped £2 for his run on the all-weather at Newcastle. You can ignore that. I'm hoping they're getting him lined up for the Royal Hunt Cup. I've done a whole analysis on this horse, a whole blog post about him, why I think he should be running in the Royal Hunt Cup at Ascot. I don't want to see him run again though, because if he does, he's currently rated 99. That should get him in, but if he was rated 96 or 95, it might be right on the edge of not getting in, which would be very disappointing. I'm just hoping that they're lining him up for something. You can see that they're kind of messing about with his trip. 6 furlong, a mile. He's gone over a mile and 142. And then 2 races later, he runs over 2 furlongs and 142 yards less. I mean, they're messing about with his handicap mark. Get him back to Ascot, over a mile in the Royal Hunt Cup. I think he goes very close. So move on to the next one. Westerton. He's dropped £2 to 95. Now, interestingly for him, do you know he's actually got a win back here? On his only win, he beat, let's have a look, he beat Middle-earth. He beat Middle-earth by 4.5 lengths. If they can find a race at Sandown for Westerton, you'd have to think that Westerton's going to run a really big race there. I wasn't sure I could find the race for him there, so I wondered whether they might run him in a race somewhere. Maybe he'll disappoint again before they return for this race here, the 6-horse challenge handicap at Newmarket. They finished 3rd in it last year behind Killybegs Warrior, who I believe we tipped up that day, and Obelix. 3rd in that race last year. He was rated 92. So he's currently rated 95, but if they get a run into him beforehand and he drops another couple of pounds, say he runs off 93, considering he was 3rd off 92, I think he'd go really close again. So that's where I hope we see Westerton back for this race again. Actually, he can't run in this race again because he's not 3, is he? That is a very silly analysis. And you know what? I'm going to remove that horse from our... removed after a mistake. So I have actually just changed our thread to say removed. So ignore that one for Westerton. I don't know what they're going to do with him. So let's continue and we'll talk about a horse significantly lower in the handicap mark than Westerton is, and that is Gis A Sub. Incredibly, Gis A Sub was rated 106 as a 3-year-old. He's now down another £3 to 64. That is it just been... Did he not train on? Has he lost a leg? I think one thing that's interesting is they've not actually gone back to tracks that he's done well at, which is a real shame. I hope they do next time. I hope they run him at Pontefract. There's this Class 5 6 furlong sprint for horses rated 56 to 75. So rated 64, he should get right in the middle. And he's got form at Pontefract. He's actually only been there the once. He won as a 2-year-old in 2021. The runner-up that day was a horse called Hello My Darling, who was owned at the time by Middleham Park Racing. Hello My Darling, after that, went on to do all right himself. Ended up finishing second at Ripon in a champion 2-year-old listed race, rated 102. Yes, he has now dropped himself, or she has now dropped herself, back down to a mark of 82 and isn't running particularly well. Haven't actually seen her since September 2022. They've probably retired her. But yeah, I think the fact that Gis A Sub was able to beat Hello My Darling, making all the running at Pontefract, surely that's where we see Gis A Sub now off just a ridiculously low mark of 64. I think he would be able to run a really big race there. And finally, the last one I want to talk about is Lethal Nymph, who is another one that's dropped significantly in handicap, now down to a mark of 82, having previously been as high as 96. It's not that significant, I guess. But where do you go with Lethal Nymph? Well, crazy that you can't go to Royal Ascot off 82, considering the horse has form at Ascot of first and fifth. So I'm hoping that they can get the horse back into races towards the end of the season at Ascot. Where do you do that? Well, last season, the horse went to Windsor and finished second in this Sprint Series handicap, a qualifier, behind Tanmawi. That came off a mark of 93. So the fact the horse could run off 82, £11 lower, already would give the horse a massive chance. And even more so, this is a Class 3, this qualifier on the 17th of June, not a Class 2 that they ran in last year. I mean, surely he would go very, very close in this race. This qualifier, Class 3, easier race, got some form at the track as well. I mean, I've got to add him to my notebook with that race in mind. So let's have a look. That was on the 17th of June. Is where we want to see Lethal Nymph run next. There is a qualifier at Windsor on 17th of June. And hopefully he can win that and then get back into those races towards the end of the season at Ascot, where he clearly has good form. He's won off 86, 89 and was fifth last year off 92. So if he turned back up off like 86, you'd think he'd go well, wouldn't you? So yeah, they are my horses for this week. There's quite a few there, but definitely think if they all ran in those races that I've suggested, there would be a few winners. Obviously, there's a couple that could run in the same race, like Marshman and Relief Rally. Run them both. They'll finish first and second. We can get the forecast as well.